What's good, YouTube? This is Boxingwave, and we are back. First off, I want to shout out to everyone that was here on the live commentary last night. I know I got here a little late, but there was still a lot of people here last night. So shout out to you all, and shout out to the new subscribers as well. We're just gonna do a quick recap of the fight last night between Arthur Beterbiev and Callum Smith, and also we're gonna start talking about the Dmitry Bivol fight right here. Hopefully it's next. It should be next. It sounds like it's going to be next. So we'll talk about that shortly, all right? But if you are new, subscribe to the channel, like and comment as well on the video, all right? So Arthur Beterbiev stops Callum Smith in the 7th round after knocking him down 2 times. Buddy McGirt, who's a trainer of Callum Smith, steps into the ring and calls it all, waves it off, all right? Callum Smith was being battered at the time. But he put on a decent performance. I think the first couple rounds he did okay. I gave him the 2nd round. That was the only round I scored for him. I did check the scorecards. I believe that 2 of the judges gave Callum Smith the 2nd round, and I believe 2 of them gave him the 6th round as well. All right, but I just gave Callum Smith the 2nd round. Thought he did decent in the 1st round, but he did certain things. I might as well start off with talking with him because he did some decent things. I did like the jab. I think he was pretty good with his jab. Doing that double jab, shooting the jab up top into the body at the same time. So I thought that was good. He did land some good right hands around the guard of Arthur Beterbiev. So he did a good job with that. But outside of that, I think it was not much that he can really do. It wasn't the largest ring, but even if it was, he's kind of flat-footed. He's always been. So I wasn't expecting him to use the ring that much, But even when he was having a little bit of success, I never thought that he was really ever in control. I think Beterbiev was doing what he wanted to do. Beterbiev is kind of tricky. He uses the ring at times just to kind of lure you into some sort of a trap, when he's not coming forward, which is what he's great at doing. But he's also good at setting traps and stuff and ambushing you and stuff. So Callum Smith, I think the major problem is, especially starts in the 3rd and 4th rounds, is when Arthur is going, he got that rhythm going where he's kind of destroying you. He didn't really know what to do. Callum Smith just kind of clamps up and go into a high guard, and he leaves his back against the ropes, and there was no tying up. He barely tied up in the fight. I think Callum Smith, one of his biggest plans was to try to counter with the left hook. He has a big left hook, right? And if you can see in his last fights, you see that punch is very powerful punch. It's probably his best punch. And I think he tried to lure Beterbiev in for that shot. And he went for it a few times. It's very quick. It's very powerful. But he didn't really connect because Beterbiev saw it coming. Beterbiev, he didn't have much problem with getting in range. He normally doesn't. But here he really didn't. One thing about Beterbiev, as good as his jab was in this fight, you notice that Beterbiev was looking for the hook. He was waiting for the hook to come, and it seemed similar to like the Jamel Charlo fight against Castano, the first fight. Charlo relied on his back being against his rope so he can set up the left hook counter. He was trying to time it in between the combinations of Castano, and it didn't really work for him because Castano, he was waiting for, as he's throwing his punches, he's waiting for the counter to come. So every punch he's throwing the right hand. He either got the left hook hand up, or he's waiting for the punch to get thrown back at him in between his punches. So Beterbiev was waiting for it, even with the onslaught, even with the combinations. He was waiting for something to get thrown back at him in between his exchanges and his flurries. So Callum Smith, especially in that 3rd round, if you hear on the commentary, like I said then, Callum Smith was getting busted up, and he really didn't know what to do. And sometimes you have to just tie up. We know you're durable. You know, you're a big guy. You're a durable guy, but you have to tie up, man. And I know it's easier said than done. Sometimes you can't, but I didn't. I rarely see him try to tie up in a fight. It was just like, let me just be in a high guard, which is it's difficult because this guy is great at breaking down fighters with a high guard. You know, he's going to your body, he's punching you through the guard, he's punching around the guard, and he's throwing his his punch selection is just phenomenal in Arthur Beterbiev. It's going to take more than you just clamming up for you to be able to survive at the onslaught. So I think with Callum, you know, I mean, he Beterbiev was a clear favorite to win. Most of us expected Beterbiev to win. Outside of a few, you know, hardcore Smith fans, some British fans, you know, some people thought that Arthur Beterbiev was just going to be too old. You know, even though Callum was rustier, Beterbiev has not really been that active neither. You know, so I understand why people picked him. It wasn't a bad pick. I even threw a little bit of money in the pot just in case Callum Smith pulled off some sort of an upset. But realistically, like he doesn't have the talent, and it showed in this fight. You know, Beterbiev is like one of those elite fighters. You know, when I put people in a pound for pound list, a lot of people place them there based on just how many titles they won in different divisions and whatever. I put people there because there's one thing about adjusting to your opponent. You know, Callum Smith did well in the second round, but clearly in the third round, whatever he was doing didn't work for him in the third round. And only the super elite fighter are going to adjust to their opponents. You know, the super elite fighters are going to adjust or adjust multiple times, sometimes in a fight. Whatever's working for their opponent is not going to work as the fight goes on. You might got me on this round, but I'm going to counter everything you're doing in this round and beat you later. And only the super elite are capable of doing that to whatever style they're facing. And when Arthur Beterbiev, throughout his career, I've seen him do it, fighting different type of fighters, and starting with one approach, but eventually it becomes too much, especially with his power. For Beterbiev, again, even though Callum Smith had a great jab, it was working for him, you know, certain periods of this fight. Beterbiev's jab was even better. You know, Beterbiev's jab was just, he was just popping and moving, you know, and Callum Smith, his head is dead center. You know, he doesn't really keep his head off the line too much. And Beterbiev was coming in, stepping in, throwing jabs, stepping out, throwing jabs, changing levels, throwing jabs, popping them all kind of ways. And the timing was just always on point. You know, there were certain rounds that I gave to Beterbiev simply because the jab alone was just so on point in this fight. You know, the feinting, the level changing, he was just really on point. His timing was really on point. Like, he really didn't miss that much. And when you have that kind of power, you don't have to have a super amount of volume to be able to beat your opponent. You know, you just throw the right amount of punches. There were certain rounds where his punch volume was a lot less, but he made every punch count, you know. And again, Callum is not that hard to hit. Again, not a guy that's moving his upper body too much. Didn't know how to tie up and stop. You got to stop the rhythm, you know. And I think that's some fighters like Volsdik and Yard, they were able to go further into the fight simply because they just had better survival tactics. And Callum just didn't have them here. You know, it's just like with Joe Smith. Like, yeah, these guys never been knocked down. These guys are known to be very durable fighters. But now you're getting hit with a real puncher, an elite puncher, and a phenomenal boxer. You know, what exactly are you going to do? You got to do something else just by, other than just taking the punches. You know what I mean? And we know that Beterbiev is great at countering jabs. He has a great overhand right. And once the jabs start becoming lazier because you're taking a punishment, you know, and you're just at some point, you're just throwing just to throw, just to keep something out here. That's when he got caught in the seventh round. I believe the first knockdown or the first time he got hurt was from an overhand right, from a lazy jab that was too close, similar to Joe Smith earlier in the fight, getting quote, coming in too close, throwing a jab, and getting countered with overhand right. And that's Beterbiev. That's what he's a master at doing. But he has the power, the power again. I heard this guy live, real fights at the fights. You could hear the power from wherever you're sitting in the arena. All right. So Beterbiev stops him. Good showing again. I said this last night. I said this prior to the fight, and I said this last night. He's not showing that he's aging. He's not. He's not. And if you look at his videos of him training, you see like some of the exercises he's doing. This guy is really intense. Yes, he's injury prone, but the kind of workouts he's doing, man, his body is like a tank, So with all that power and stuff, he's a phenomenal athlete. He's very durable, and he's just a tank, So he calls out Dmitry Bivol. All right. Bob Arum is there in the ring with him. Bob Arum saying it's not signed yet. It's not done, but it should be done after Ramadan, after April. We should probably get the fight, which is cool. There was reports a couple weeks back saying that Bivol already signed his part of the fight. So I guess everything get going. I mean, these both, I'm assuming that it's going to be undisputed. I know the WBC didn't want to sanction it at one point because of all the, everything that's going on with the Ukraine and Russia. I'm sure they're not going to want to miss out in that kind of fight, at this point. I don't know what's the update with that, but regardless, whether it's for undisputed or not, that should be the next fight. I mean, these two are clearly better than the rest. And now going to the fight and basically talking about who wins is difficult, It's difficult to decide. I know I personally been back and forth. Every time I watch Bivol fight, I feel like he can't lose. But every time I watch Beterbiev fight, I feel like he can't lose. And it's more than just looking at film because, I think when I watch the two, I think that the both of them do so much more than what their opponents offer. When I look at Beterbiev and I see his fights with Joe Smith, Callum Smith, Anthony Yard, even Alexander Volstik, when I look at his opponents over the years, right, I'm like, Bivol can do more than all of these guys. He's way more capable than all of these guys. I think the biggest thing clear with Bivol is this not having the power, the stopping power. He's just not a knockout artist by any means. But I do think he has respectable power to where he can force his opponents to fight backwards. He comes out very aggressive. Bivol gets a lot of credit for his skills and his talent, right? But he doesn't get enough credit for how good of a pressure fighter he is. Everybody brings up Bivol and say he has good skills. He has good defense, good timing, all of this stuff, good jab, yada, yada, yada. But I don't think he gets credit for being a good pressure fighter, forcing these guys to go backwards, being in range and staying in range for long periods of time, and being able to get in and out of range so quickly, while being so close, defensively getting out of range when his opponent's throwing it. Like, he's very, very quick feet, even quicker than Arthur's, very quick hands, great reflexes, just being able to read his opponents. He's really, really good at that. I think it's just the power, the power is going at least going into the Beterbiev fight, because Beterbiev is always dangerous because he has such a big punch. And that is one of the key things here. Like, even if Bivol is doing well, there's certain fighters that was doing well against Beterbiev, but how long can you go? How long can you maintain whatever's working for you, And but then you look at Beterbiev and his resume, same thing with him. I'm sorry, Bivol. And there's some common opponents there. But when you look at John Pascal, Joe Smith Jr., Canelo Alvarez, even though Canelo's a pound for pound fighter, there's things that Canelo didn't bring that Beterbiev will. Beterbiev is going to be way more difficult than Canelo. Beterbiev is legit light heavyweight. Beterbiev is going to bring a jab, which Canelo did not bring. There was no jab in a Canelo fight with Bivol. So when you look at all of these fighters that Bivol has beaten all over the years, I think there's no one there that is going to bring the kind of intensity and boxing skills too, because we cannot underestimate the IQ of Beterbiev because he has so much power. You can't dismiss that. He has a lot of power, but his IQ is really on point, and the ability to adjust too. It's just, I've seen him fight so many different type of fighters, and he's always gonna have his way. He's always been in control. I know he got dropped a couple times, and people bring it up all the time. Yes, he got dropped by Jeff Page. Probably underestimating the guy. I think he stopped him right away in the very next round. I remember watching that fight live. And I also remember watching the Callum Johnson fight. I mean, he fighting another big puncher. He went to war with a big puncher, a guy that went and left it all in there. Like, Callum Johnson's not a boxer. Like, he's just, he's a boxer, but he's just, he's a slugger, and you go in there with a slugfest with a big puncher, you get clipped, you got clipped, and he went down. But it was is what he was able to do after getting knocked down, So I can't give you a final decision on where I'm gonna go or who I'm leaning towards. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to doing a breakdown. I went back and watched a little bit of Bivol against who was I watching a fight? Was it Canelo? I don't know if it was Canelo. It was Canelo. Who did Bivol fight? Oh, I was watching a little bit of the Zerto fight, and I think I was watching a little bit of Canelo today. Zerto's a southpaw, so it's a little different, but regardless, I can see how Bivol wins. I can see how he wins, because Bivol, when I watch him fight, again, it's the hand speed. It's the fact that he can engage with you while being so close. One of the best active high guards out there. And a phenomenal jab. I mean, phenomenal. I mean, the amount of feinting that he does, he's in getting his opponents to bite off of them. He's feinting before he throws a jab. He's feinting after he pulls his jab back. It's just the amount of science in there with his game. It's really, really hard to time him. It can be done. He could definitely get countered with the overhand right, which is, I think, Beterbiev's best punch. And Beterbiev will catch him. I really guess it depends on whether or not Bivol can deal with the power of Beterbiev. Because I think point match round by round, I think Bivol wins more rounds. All right. I think Bivol wins more rounds. I think when I've read certain comments of Bivol running and all of that, I don't know where people get that from, because again, Bivol likes to be very close. Okay, he might wait a little bit, but he's gonna be right in front of you. He's gonna be bringing that pressure, and he's gonna be throwing that jab. And Bivol and Beterbiev is gonna have to deal with it, because Beterbiev is also a very good. He again, he's great at level changing and feinting, tricking you and throwing these illusions where you think he's going low and then now he's going over the top with the right hand. Especially when he's level changing. The level changing is that's his game. I think I can see where they both can have issues with each other. It just it's just all about what happens that night, you know. But I think Bivol wins more rounds. If it goes a distance, I'm going for Bivol. But obviously, Beterbiev, the power, you know, he can change the rhythm of a round. And we've seen Joe Smith, you know, Bivol's hasn't been knocked down. Beterbiev been knocked down twice. But I think what I saw Bivol get hurt a couple times against Joe Smith with the overhand right counter over the jab. I think those punches are, it tells more of a story of what could happen in a Beterbiev fight with Bivol than those knockdowns that we saw in those two fights with Beterbiev. You know what I mean? I think those overhand rights landing in Joe Smith Jr. fight, it tells more than the two knockdowns. Again, I can't wait to like really like break this fight down. And they announce it. It's probably going to happen because it seems like anything that's happening in Saudi Arabia is legit. It's never a problem out there. You know, and if it comes to anything else, like all this time, all these last few years, has been a problem. I believe that the fight is going to happen. You know, whenever the Saudis is involved, I feel like the fight's going to really happen. So I'm happy about that. But overall, I can't fully call it. You know, again, I'm more so leaning towards Beterbiev because I just saw him fight last night. But Bivol is so much more capable than Calvin Smith. It's not even close. As far as Calvin Smith in his future, I seen where I read where he said that, you know, he's trying to consider what he wants to do because now he knows he's not the best, so he's disappointed. There's still a lot of fights, you know, and I don't think Beterbiev is going to be around that long. And if he is, I don't think he's going to stay at light heavy. I think, you know, there's still options for him. There's still fights where other British fighters like Anthony Yarde and Joshua Buatsi that I think make sense. You know, there's still a lot of like heavyweights that are still around. So I think he still can do some things and still pick up a title at some point, especially if these titles get vacated after the winner of Beterbiev and Bivol. You know what I mean? You know, after 2024, I mean, if he's going to stay in the sport, he needs to at the very least be more active because he hasn't fought in a year and a half. So I think he has options, you know, and I mean, yeah, that's all I really got to say. So I think Beterbiev and Bivol, the winner of that fight. I'm not sure exactly where I'm gonna place that person, but depending on the performance, you know, you can make an argument, a strong case that they're at least the winner of that fight would be at least top 2, top 3 the most, you know, in the world, because that is one of the best wins in all of boxing, in my opinion. One of the best wins of all in boxing is the winner of that fight. If we get a legit winner, especially if someone absolutely gets dominated, you know, like let's say Bivol just puts on a boxing clinic and takes Beterbiev to school, or Beterbiev just destroys him, runs through him like the way he's been doing everybody else, you know, or even outboxing him, you know, like just picture Beterbiev just outboxing Bivol for 12 rounds. You have to like that's one of the best wins out there, period. You know, they both fought a bunch of good fighters at 175 over the years. So, but that win there would cement them as being, if not the best, one of the best in the whole world. All right. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Please like the video as well. And, you know, we'll definitely be talking more about this fight. All right. So I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.